whoever has like a business, you know that almost like the home stuff operates like a business as well. There's like meals and grocery systems and kid logistics and birthday parties to plan and, stuff to clean. And there's all of these systems that we need to take care of on the home front, right? Yes, like everybody. And a lot of it becomes like this invisible load. It's like a second job. It's exhausting. It's unpaid, right? It's just completely thankless. So everything that you watched us do for our business these couple days, it's working exactly the same on the home front. And I sort of feel like the home wins count for more because, it's actually solving like such a huge pain point in our life. And there's just like there's an endless amount that you can do, especially if you're trying to think about like, what's the daily tasks? What's the weekly tasks? What's my monthly, quarterly, once a year spring cleaning? And like, oh my gosh, don't forget to change the HVAC filters every 6 months or like you'll ruin your house. So there's all of these things you're like, I just don't feel like I need to remember all this information. And then there's a division of labor issue. I don't know if anybody else has a division of labor issue in their household. You want to get your kids doing more stuff. And you want to make sure, you and your spouse are also sharing the load equally, right? And this looks different for every person. And so we're like, okay, how can we think creatively about how to use AI to sort of take a little bit of this problem away? And we started with the cleaning problem, okay, the cleaning and house maintenance problem. And we already had a pretty decent rhythm going. Like Demir and I, we would do it on the weekends. We had 2 hours for each person, and we were, knocking a lot of stuff out. But every single Saturday, we would turn to each other and go, okay, what do we need to do today? And it was like we were sort of like wondering who was going to store the list in their head of like who's going to be taking on what and what's the highest priority. And so what we did instead was we built a home agent named Dobby. Some of you saw that Inver has a Dobby as well. This is just a, clever name from the Harry Potter books. Dobby is like a house elf that does house stuff. And Dobby's job is everything that we own and have to take care of. So like our house, our cars, our landscaping. And his job is also to know about things that we don't want to bother knowing about, such as our super fancy geothermal pump and our like upgraded HVAC stuff and specifics around Georgia, like snakes and, when we need to be doing our deep cleaning of our deck after the pollen season. So he knows all that stuff. That's his job as our agent. And then what I did was I sort of downloaded him on my personal preferences for how I want my home to be. So, hey, I really care about having clean bathrooms. That's just like a thing that is really important to me that's higher on the priority list. I really care about having clean floors, right? Like it bothers the heck out of me if I'm walking on a floor and it's got like little crumbs on it. And with 3 kids, that's obviously every day. And so then what he did was he merged all of those tasks, all of them, across all time horizons into a single app. And this is what the app looks like. I'm calling it an app because it's essentially like a little piece of software where there's a Carey element and a Demir element, and we could add our kids once they get to the age where they can actually read and participate in this cleaning system. Essentially, we've gamified the work of cleaning. So what Dobby has done is he loads up what needs to be done. So I see that I have an overdue task to clean the washing machine. And then I see what's coming up this week. He gives me a time estimate of how many minutes he thinks this will all take. And then what's super cool is Demir has an account on this app and I have an account. And we sort of compete against each other. So if he does a task, he gets to mark it off and claim these points. So if he goes down and he's clever about it, he'll go through and do the ones that have the highest points, typically more involved, in-depth, longer tasks, right? So you get rewarded for that with more points. And if you've been part of the Lifehack ecosystem, you know that gamifying boring stuff is one of the best ways to work faster and be more focused and have more fun with your work. So that's essentially a way of looking at it, where also then we can give each other credit for stuff that we do that is maybe invisible. Anybody else have stuff that you do that feels invisible to the rest of your family? Yes. This is a way of, like, if Demir logged in, he'd be like, oh my gosh, wow, Carey, like, looks like you got a lot done this week. Thanks so much for doing all that cleaning work. And I'd be like, oh yeah, like Demir's also, he's in there, he's getting stuff done. And then whoever wins for that week, whoever has the most points at the end of the week, is the one who gets to pick the movie for family movie night. So you can see how this could easily extend if you have older kids, or, you have maybe a house manager, or you have your nanny helping with some stuff. So this is essentially just a cute little app, a dashboard that's been turned into an interactive program that we're using to keep our house clean. And not for nothing, we've kept the whole house with no cleaning service at all. We've kept the whole house clean for about 7 months now. So pat on the back for us, having been spoiled in Colombia with always having house help and having to come to the US and then switching back to doing it all ourselves. We feel like we're on track to do it in a pretty decent way. Then another idea in a different corner of home life involves dinner planning. So meal planning is another major pain point that we feel on a daily basis. Anybody else have meal planning problems? It's exhausting, and we've used plenty of systems over the years. We've tried in Asana, we've tried in Calendar, we've tried, having the SOPs, we've tried having repeatable ones where we'd always have the same meals every month, and every one of them has sort of a little bit of a problem with it. But what we've done here with this meal plan, which has sort of the soup plus the Jarvis layer here, is it takes the planning off of both of our plates. It makes it something that Demir and I share and have access to, a shared visible layer here. And it even orders the groceries for us for this. So the way it's set up is, in our family, we pretty much only plan dinner because the leftovers from dinner become our lunch for the next day. Breakfast is usually just very simple, so we don't need to plan for that. And so dinner's the one nice meal that we make. And so this whole thing is designed to plan out our dinners. Now, the way I had it do it is it starts with the cuisine mix that we wanted. So as Americans, we love eating a lot of different types of food. We discovered that this is not always the case for people, but for us, we love the variety of different types of cuisine. And so we said, okay, we want this split of cuisines, and here's a bunch of recipes that we already love. So I just dropped in a full ton of recipes of I make this all the time, I make this all the time, I love the idea of doing this, and blah, blah, blah. Then what it's done is it's created a recipe library, and it's also connected to our Google Calendar. So as you can see, it guesses at the no-cook days. So if we have a day that was for travel, so next week we have some travel, it will mark those as no-cook days. And if I wanted to change that, if I was no, actually I do want to cook that day, I would say mark as cook day. And it became a cook day, and it filled it in with a recipe. Now let's say, actually, that's a good example because next week I'm going to be traveling, but Demir will still be here. So he could be well, I want to keep I want to cook that night anyway. I'm still here with the girls. So what he would do is he would pop this open, and then he would be able to immediately go in here and view the recipe that he would use to make this dish right here without having to ask me what are we making tonight? What's the recipe? Where's the link? All of that good stuff. I also had it build in a main dish, basically it's typically, not in this case, but typically a protein, then a carb, and then a vegetable. It didn't select a carb because it was well, your main is already pretty carb heavy, so I think we're good there. But that's typically how I like to build each dinner, is with each of those 3 elements. And then if we make it, we can say, we made this, and we rate it. So we can be this was amazing, or this was only okay. And then it'll feed the rotation for the upcoming month. So yeah, it's pretty awesome. And I was really happy with it right here. But then Demir was yeah, but can we just get it to order the groceries for us? Because it's still annoying to have to go in here and be what is coming up and what should we order and all that. So I was oh, okay, I guess we could do that. So then I created a sub-agent called Emily. And Emily is different from Dobby. We could have folded it into Dobby. It doesn't really matter. But Emily is a good friend of ours that's a really good cook. And so I thought, oh, okay, I'll make an agent who is just specifically for cooking and gives me advice for what I should be making. Because I love cooking. I love making fancy dishes and stuff. So what she does is she also can order my groceries. So what I did in the time that we were talking is I gave her this command. So I'm going to show you what she did. So what I had her do, I said, 24 minutes ago, Emily, fill my Amazon Fresh cart. So she says, okay, it runs the agent. This is what it looks like when it runs an agent. Said, I'll get your next 2 dinners grocery list and then load it into your Amazon Fresh cart. And she's just working in the background while I was doing other stuff. I was on this call, right? So then it sends me screenshots. She uses my Chrome browser to access my Amazon account. And she's looking for the spinach and looking for the broccoli and looking for the tomatoes. And she puts all of these things into my Amazon Fresh cart. And there was even a recipe where she was like, I actually don't know the ingredients to this because the link to the recipe is an Instagram reel. And I don't have access to the actual ingredients. But she was like, I think I can infer what they are. So I'm going to go ahead and infer what I think is in this. And then you can always double check it. So she inferred correctly that there was salmon and there was feta cheese and a couple other things. Yeah, here's the feta. There was also an item that was out of stock, this Burson cheese that we needed. And so she made a substitution, a logical substitution, the Philadelphia garlic and herb spread. So again, she's not placing the order for me. So if I end up disagreeing with what she's chosen, I can make that swap really easily before I place the order. So I love that that sort of closes the loop on the dinner planner and makes it so that we can always have what we need in order to make the dinners.
Can I just say from the outside, how long did it take you to create, I think, the meals.lifehack method? For me, it seemed like we talked about it. I walked in the room an hour later and you had it built. But So for those of you looking at this and just being like, oh my God, this just looks so involved and complicated. You're bringing the old paradigm to this. The old paradigm is it would have taken programmers a ton of time to build an app like this. So that's the old paradigm. The new paradigm is Carey just told AI what the problem was, what she would like the solution to look like. And my recollection, Carey, if you can correct me if I'm wrong, is that it just sort of filled in all the blanks and you were pretty darn impressed. And then you just tweaked, like, could we add this? Could we subtract this? It just sort of tweaked it a little bit.
Yes, because AI stands for artificial intelligence. It has an intelligence. So that's what's different. When I used to build SOPs, remember, for anybody who's been around Lifehack for a long time, it's like, we have to bring all the intelligence. We have to put all the detail into the SOPs. We have to literally like spell everything out and make sure that nothing got missed. And AI is nice because it does take a stab at filling in some of those missing pieces. So I was able to explain in broad strokes, like, here's what our existing system looks like. We cook every day. We want it to be enough for leftovers, like blah, 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 blah. Here's some recipes. I like this. I don't like this, blah, blah, blah. Can you propose to me a dashboard that would help us with this system, right? And it was like, yeah, I get it. And then it just built something.